We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiliw, kailas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa gagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng pangaw, ay hinagang tulad, awit sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan ang may mag-iinig, lumalang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo, ang inigaya ng pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another session of our mentoring program for startups. Thank you also for sharing the video that we put available on Facebook last Wednesday. And we are very grateful. It has reached a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of business circles within our region. So thank you for all those who shared that video. For today's session, we're going to talk about product development, and we are going to have two mentors who will be spearheading this session. The first person is the founder, one of the co-founders of Happy Garaje, who is Mark Deutsch. Hi, Mark. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, of course. We are so happy that you accepted our invitation to mentor our startups for the second time. And I understand that this afternoon you'll be talking about branding and more, right, Mark?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. I'm looking forward to your session. And if you have, for all those who are watching at home, if you have any questions, don't forget to mention us on Facebook, Startup Island PH, and we'll make sure to answer that later if we still have time. So go ahead, Mark. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Startup Island participants. So actually, my presentation today is very quick. I'm hoping that we can have a lively discussion after. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
It says hi. Okay. Because I've gone through so many of these presentations, and maybe every now and then I'm talking and there are no slides showing. This talk, so I did Startup Island last year, and my presentation last year was totally different from this year because I got to know the program better. And I got to realize that some of the startups that join Startup Island actually start, like they're just really starting out, right? So a lot of the times there is no budget for a lot of things. I saw this on Startup Island Facebook page. So I think it's very true. So aside from being a designer, we also have small startups of our own. We have products and things that we sell and we put out in the market. So I saw this and I thought, yeah, it's very true when you're starting up. And yes, I'm familiar with Hometown. So if you can afford it, of course, the best is always to work with a professional designer, right? Because they've been in the field for many years and they've worked with projects that are big and small, right? So the top, like the three I put up, like some of the Cebu design studios, White Brick, Wolfpack, and my own studio, Happy Garaje. There are some Manila design studios that are also our friends and they're great to work with. And if you have $1 million, you can work with Pentagram, who are probably the best, one of the best design studios in the world. So how you should think about your brand strategy is in this order, but usually people think about them in this order. So we'll go through the normal way. I mean, the usual way people think about naming is the first. So subtitles make them clear. So there are many ways. So I noticed like a lot of you already have brand names and product names, but some of you don't have subtitles. So subtitles are also, they're quite useful, especially if you're starting out. So if you have a descriptive product name, for example, you can have an emotive subtitle. So what does that mean? It's sort of, what do I feel or what do I get or what experience do I get when I use your product? So your product, for example, like a classic Toys R Us is a classic descriptive brand name. It tells you what they're about. One of their first slogans was, I don't want to grow up, which is it's a very emotional subtitle, right? It's like something that a lot of people feel that they feel and they sort of like can relate to. So I think that's a good example of an emotive subtitle. You can also have like a descriptive product name and a descriptive subtitle. Amazon, when they first started out, they weren't, well, not the super big Amazon it is now. Their first slogan was actually Earth's biggest bookstore. So they wanted to match, like, they wanted to be like a really big bookstore. They wanted to tell people in their subtitle that they were the biggest bookstore in the world. You can also have invented product names like Nike, and then just do it. So none of these things are descriptive. So it works for more mature brands. You can skip being descriptive. Maybe when your startup gains more traction, you become more known, you can shift some of your brand materials. Colgate is an invented product name and very descriptive subtitle. Ben & Jerry's mixes it up. So Ben & Jerry's is one of the most interesting brands in the world because they're a bunch of hippies and they make ice cream. So they believe in a lot of good things. So they wanted to put that in their subtitle as well. So a lot of their values also are communicated even in ice cream. Second, logos. So people fuss about logos. They make a big deal about logos. So as a graphic designer, I feel like we tend to put too much importance on logos. So logos are symbols. They do not completely define who you are, right? So a lot of, like in the fictional world of Gotham, a lot of people are afraid of this symbol because they know that it's Batman behind it. And why has that come to that point? Because Batman kicks ass and he defeats all of the bad guys, and he's ruthless and he's smart and he's cunning and he's all of those things, right? So imagine if Batman actually wasn't that good, or Batman sucked. So no one would actually be afraid of the logo. So the logo is actually just a reflection of your product, right? So what your logo can be. So I noticed like some of you already have logos, but for those of you who don't have logos, your logo can be just logo text. So this is the new logo text of 500. They're a startup. There are 500 startups. So they're a VC firm. They're very active in Asia. So how do you learn about typography? One of the sites that I really like is a site called Fonts in Use. Pick your type. So you can see how they use, like some designers that are practicing that we as startups might not be able to afford. You can see how they're using their typography. So most of the times, designers pick 2 or 3 different types to use in their brand. 2 is a good number, 3, okay. Anything more than 3 is a bit difficult to manage. Sometimes people pick 3, so 2 of them are similar and 1 is kind of different. If you pick 2, 1 is usually for headers and 1 is for like body type. Usually you pick a sans serif and the other one's a serif. So it's good to pick, if you're picking two types, it's good to make them different looking from each other. I also like this site, myfonts.com, because it's curated. So meaning, unlike some of the free font sites, you actually have to be vouched for to sell on this font market, on this type market. So most of the fonts or the type that can be bought here or can be downloaded here are pretty good. So it eliminates that part where you're wondering, is this good type, or is this overused, or is this bad type? So it's nice. I suggest you follow this Instagram account, Type63. So like my fonts, it's also a curated site, but it's curated and designed by Filipino typographers. So there's a lot of cultural references to the typography that's being developed by Filipino type designers. So it's quite interesting. So if you're a Filipino brand, if you're a Cebuano brand, there are Cebuano designers on there, and they make typography, and they have all of their rationales why they've made it this and that. So it just gives more depth into the things that you use for your brand. Your logo can also be just a logogram, right? Like this one. We all know who that is. Or it can be a combination like Airbnb, or like one of my favorite logos of all time is actually PLDT, the old one. I thought it was like really nice. So your logos can be anything, right? If you're a startup, you can be forgiven if your logos are not the best logos. Who's to say it's the best logo anyway in the first place? But it can be anything, just not these two types, okay? So if you're making a logo, just make sure you're not checking the box of these two things. First is don't let it be a rip-off, right? Because rip-offs are jokes and possibly lead to a lawsuit. If you're a sari store, it's okay, right? I mean, your circle of influence is just your community, and people have fun with it. And then I'll see you at 7 Evelyn at 7 p.m. We'll hang out till 11 p.m., things like that. But if you want to be a serious startup and you want to have far-reaching goals, like you want to be known in the region or in the national sense, or like throughout the world, well, maybe you should think about a logo that's built up from scratch. The second thing is, don't let it look like that. What's that? So you should be aware about some cultural references. So anything that's offensive to a culture in general, or has some bad history attached to it, maybe you should stay away from it. So don't make it look like that, like this symbol or this, which was for the Iowa State Fair. So, just if you're unsure, show it to other people. Does this look okay? And they'll tell you, right? Color. So the colors that you choose, no matter what people say, blue stands for this and that, red stands for this and that. Ultimately, you decide what color you want to choose, right? So what am I trying to say? You can pick search color wheel. You can pick any color you like, right? As long as when you pick the second or your third color, they should go together, right? So you can start anywhere. You can start with yellow if you want yellow to be your primary, if you want red to be your primary, or in this case, blue is the primary. So the secondary will be yellow, and then the tertiary, meaning you use them less and less. Whereas when you look at your materials, like the dominant is blue, and there are touches of yellow to it. So what are some of the reasons to pick color? One, it's your favorite color. That's totally valid reason to pick a color. Some people like to think strategically. It's opposite of my competitor's color. He's going with this color, I'll go with that color. Number three, if you look at some studies, it might evoke some emotion that is relevant to your product. That's also valid, right? So the thing that you might not want to do is pick two colors that are opposite each other and then use them equally 50-50. So that creates some kind of clash visually, and just try to create harmony through color. Third, the next is copywriting or communicating. So it's important to write in your own voice, especially if you're a small team, like a team of 3, a team of 2, a team of 5. Who's the best copywriter there? Who are the best copywriters that are in your team? How do they write? How do they write in a way that they can express themselves well, right? So if you're funny, that's great, right? Write funny. That's your advantage. But at the baseline, if you're not, you don't need to force it because it might come across in the wrong way. The baseline is just be earnest and do a spell check. So that's also a good tip to have. I'm down to my last few slides. So if you pick up anything from this presentation, I want you to remember these 2 things. When you're creating materials, just remember what you're trying to achieve is clarity and appropriateness, right? So what is clarity? Clarity means that everything that you're trying to develop, whether you're posting an image, you're writing something on Facebook, you're writing something on your blog, you're posting a video on YouTube, all of these things should contribute to people understanding who you are as a company, who you are as a brand, who you are as a product. All of these things should add up and make it clearer to people so that they understand who you are. So that's your first goal. The second goal is appropriateness. So who are my users? If my product is directed at the elderly, how do the elderly people speak? Like, what are the things that they are interested in? Maybe if I am making a children's product, I should also look at what is interesting to children. What should my colors be? What images should I use? If I'm making a product for scientists, maybe I can use jargon that's kind of like an inside joke for that industry, and that makes my product, my brand, more endearing to them, right? Yes, another Venn diagram. So somewhere here in the middle of you trying to find out who you are and trying to reach your audience is the perfect balance. So that's clarity and appropriateness. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. So now we're going to discuss for a little bit with our mentees, or for those who have questions regarding Mark's session in a bit. And then after the very short discussion, we'll go on to Vince Loremia's talk. And then if we still have time, we will entertain questions for Vince Loremia's talk. And then after that, we will go ahead and cut the live so that we can have our fireside chat with the with the fireside mentor and the mentees. So mentees, do you have questions that you want to clarify with Mark right now? Right. Okay. All right. Wala pa. Okay. So later na daw during fireside. Okay, I understand. So that was a very informative session regarding branding and how you can effectively communicate with your target market using using your visuals. So now we have Vince. Our next mentor is Vince Loremia. He's one of the founders of Startup Island PH. And in fact, he, Jan Yolen, and Ma'am Nanette have been with the program ever since. They have not stopped supporting Startup Island. So Vince, hi, are you on the call na? Okay. While we are waiting for Vince to come in sa call, I'll give you more information regarding how this yeah, okay, how this program came to be with Vince. Um, Basically they saw a similar mentoring program. It was, I think it was Startup Academy, and then Vince actually approached Mam Nanette, and they proposed to do a similar thing with them, and this led to the creation of the program. And now this afternoon, Vince will talk about the product development, since he's built, I think, three startups already. And he'll talk about how the teams can collaborate, how they can delegate the workflow, and how they can come up with a better way to make sure that the product is would fit the needs of their target market. So that's the session for Vince this afternoon. Vince, is he here? Let's hold on. Okay. I'll be presenting the slides for Vince. Here. Here.
Hi, Joy.
Hi, Vince.
Hi, guys.
Hi, good afternoon.
Ma-project ra?
Yes, my
Composite.
project.
All right.
I'm doing it now for you.
Thank you.
All right. Hi. Okay. You can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. How are you? So I'm presenting to you now the product concept. Is it shared, Joy?
Here. Yes.
All right. So my topic is all about agile product development. So how to get things done fast. So I'll be focusing more of coming up with your own MVP and moving forward, how to add more features into your product. So take note of the word agile. So prior to that, next please, Joy. So today's agenda, I'll be introducing the session and myself, recap, and then product development myth and theories, and lastly, there will be workshops, mini workshops. I'll give you 3 to 5 minutes to answer every Google Docs or Google Sheets. It will be helpful for your organization, especially if you are starting off or you wanted to build a new feature or new MVP. So next, please. So I know you all know about me. You can follow me on LinkedIn. That's my profile, and my Facebook. I'm very public, so I'm also doing several startups. As you all know, I'm the founder of Tudlo.co, and then Callfly, and recently Cleaningly here in Australia. And hopefully I'll be opening up SIPH Australia. I'll be partnering with SIPH. Next, Joy. So this is what we've learned so far during your past few days. Some of you might heard about this several times, or maybe this is new to you. But what I'm trying to say here is there should be three people in your organization, at least three core people for your startup to succeed. Um, so we have hustler. Usually that's the business leader or the one who would guide you and doing some business development, presenting your pitch deck, getting more investors. That's usually the hustler. And second, which is more important, hackers. They are the engineers. They are the builders of your products. Without your product, there would be no startup. Yeah. But sometimes the product is just a channel, and usually the driver is your customers, and that's why hustlers should know about the difference between a product, a service, and a channel. I'll be discussing that later on. And then lastly, hipster. Um, with the advent of user experiences, user interfaces in mobile interactions and web, uh, the designer is now more of an architect. They usually are the heart of every customer interaction on your product. All right, next, please. And now I'll be discussing about your roles and responsibilities as hacker, as hustler, and as hipster. And there's a new concept. It's not new, it's been there, but this will help you segregate your roles and responsibilities, your tasks on every persona or personnel or founder on your organization. We've been using this in several organizations that I have here in Australia, specifically. So we have responsible. So in every decision making or any department of your organization, you should always have someone who's responsible on that particular task or your particular agenda or particular goal. So the definition for that is does the work to complete the task. So he's the one who would actually actualize that particular agenda. So for example, this button feature should work. So that the responsible person for that is the engineer. Okay, at least there should be one task. Second is accountable. So this is the person who delegates work, is the last one to review the task or deliverable before it's deemed complete. Usually in software development world, this is the project manager or this is the team leader. Or in your case, if you're a startup, this is the hustler. You will check if the features that are set for the customers are being completed. And third, consulted. So who's providing the input based on either how it will impact the future project, work, or their domain of expertise in the deliverable itself. So there's a maximum or minimum personnel who would be able to be consulted. Like for instance, this feature, you will be consulting your hipster on how it looks, or you will be consulting your customers, especially your first few customers who would use your product. So you should have someone who would be consulted on every project or feature that you want to uh, make on your startup. And fourth is informed. So needs to be kept in the loop on project progress rather than rope into the details of every deliverable. So this is just the uh, people who would be looped in, so they would just be informed. So they don't have to be it could be the CEO who's not really into depth of your project development management. This person could be your investors. They just need to be looped in so they would know how you progress with your projects or your features. All right, next. So now this is the activity. I want you to write your own RACI. Go to this link. Joy, can you help me copy and paste it to the chat or maybe on the FB group chat? So I'll give you 3 to 5 minutes to compose your own RACI as a startup. So you have there some columns to fill in. Who's responsible, who's accountable, who's in control, who's informed. Okay, so you need to fill up. It could be as realistic as possible on what you've been doing currently on your startup. All right, so 3 to 5 minutes.
We have 1 minute left.
So I need a volunteer to present the RACI. If someone can present, please do so, or else I will call one startup.
So whoever wants to present, kindly raise your hand or go to the chat box. The 1 minute is over. So Vince, I think we'd have to call someone. Purchase here.
Do we now have a presenter? Who's volunteering?
No one. No one pa. So probably it would be better if we choose. Begin.
Okay, let's give 2 minutes because they're filling
Okay.
it up first. Yeah, another 2 minutes.
Okay. All right.
All right. Do we have some volunteers? Is purchaser volunteering?
Mentees.
Yeah. Don't you worry, guys. Oh, everyone would be called, so everyone should participate. Purchaser, are you ready? The last group already, all of them actually filled it up in 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, so should I present the slides? The RACI, the RACI.
Yeah. Can you present the RACI? Purchaser, can you show your work to the group?
Hello, we're still filling up our phase one. If you could give us a couple more minutes, or if someone could go first, that would be really helpful.
All right, no worries.
Awesome, thank you.
Anyone?
Okay, I think
Yeah, please. Even though it's incomplete, we just need to show to the world that you know how to do some racing.
sure. I can't seem to share my screen. There you go.
Yes, please.
Okay, so do you see our Google Sheet?
Yeah.
Hello? Am I sharing the right screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
go ahead.
So right now, we're split into three. Our team composition is three engineers and one designer. That's our current role split. And then for now, David and Lyle are the ones handling the mobile UI, and then Arlen is supervising as he's doing the backend. For Firebase backend, Arlen's doing most of the work here, and then David would be the one syncing up with him and tying up the mobile UI works. And Lana would be informed here. Actually, Lana's also consulted here, and then for pitch decks, sorry, this is a bit rushed. I'm the one who did the pitch deck, and then we consult Lion and David for tying it up with what we're currently developing. And Erlen's checking it up if it's uh, holding me accountable for my work, basically. And then for website design, I did the initial mock-ups, and then Arlen's the one doing coding while Lion did the working on the MVP. So yeah, he's holding me accountable for the design. And the reverse is the same for the website coding backend actually. I'm the one doing uh, I'm the one doing the design, and like Arlen's doing the coding for our web presence, our website basically. So he's going to be the one doing it, and I'll holding accountable. And while Lion and David are the ones holding the MVP, there since we're a mobile first application, they will only just need to stay informed basically. So I think that's for our MVP. Did, uh, did we
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Awesome.
no worries. We just need one face. Good job, purchaser. So I think that's more of the product development. But Racy can also be uh, used for your operations, for your sales. So who's responsible for purchasing? Who's responsible for your partners? Who's responsible for your, if it's my Toda, who's responsible for getting Toda drivers? And who's responsible on training them? So it could also be used on operations. Yeah. So next, please. So even though we have Racy, and it's also a discipline for you to be all accountable and responsible on any decision of your startup. Because I believe in the startup world who's very high functioning team, everyone actually leads. So it doesn't matter if you are the CEO, it doesn't matter if you're the CTO, you could be a member on one particular task or obligation. Yeah. So anyone or everyone can lead. Okay. Next, please. Now, this is about the product market fit. I know you've discussed this with Timmy, but this is how really on searching what kind of, this is a pre-exercise on how to build your product. Because usually, especially if you are an engineer, you want to build your product right away without even validating if there's a product market fit. So these are just the whole steps on searching and then executing. The first is you need to know if there's a problem, and it should be big enough that every problem should have a solution where paying customers can pay as much as you can. Then you will have a business. All right. And then it should be a solution that can be sellable and can be scalable. So now you have customer discovery and customer validation on knowing what solution to be sold in the market. And then for customer creation and company building, you already have your solution. All you have to do is actually scaling up. Okay. As founder right now, I find it now easy to start because it's now cheaper. Long before, it's difficult because you need to buy servers, you need to have different kinds of resources. But now you have Google, you have Amazon giving free resources. So the question now is not actually about starting, but scaling. So you need to have a discipline on how to really build features that really matters to your customers. Next, please. Now, these are all different kinds of strategies on product development. And you see this on different kinds of organizations. It could be multinational corporation, similar to West Farmer Group, where I also belong as part of Target Australia. It could be a startup where I belong in Cleaningly or in Callfly, or it could be a small medium business like SIPH, which is an agency. So these are all different kinds of strategies that you can adapt now, later, or tomorrow. The first is you need to invest in market research, especially those who are already in the market leaders like Google, Apple. They tend to do market research most of the time. They want to be first all the time. Second is to respond to customer requests. There are some products built because of customer feedbacks. Sometimes your solution is not about you as idealists or dreamers or builders. Your product is brought about by constantly talking to your customers. Then defend against competition. That's the reason why we have patents. And I think one of the speakers will talk about IPs because some large corporations, it's one of their strategy on getting more revenues. Patents. They are protecting their ideas. At the same time, they're looking for companies who's copying their ideas so they can do legal stuff. And then you could also benchmark your competitors or copy your competitors, especially Chinese companies. It's their way to actually be ahead in the world. They copy Facebook, they copy Google, and they close their borders or their internet. So not anybody can just use Facebook in China. And then you also have position as second, but be the best. So these are all some strategies like Facebook has done. So long before there was MySpace, there was Friendster. So Facebook was not the first. They were the second, they're even the third, but they were the best among the rest. And then acquiring other companies. This is also some of the strategies of big corporations for their growth. Like Oracle, they bought different kinds of startups, systems, and companies. And then make alliances. Like for instance, in Tudlo, we don't have sales, but Smart is giving us customers. So those alliances, even though you're small, can make a big leap on your startup. And then we also have investing on entrepreneurs. Like Mark Cuban of Shark Tank, he usually invests on people. And he believes that companies can only be built by passionate entrepreneurs. So anybody can have ideas, but those entrepreneurs who can do extraordinarily well, can execute well, those are at par of their competitors or their colleagues. And then obviously investing in research and development. Right, next please. Now we talk about MVP a while ago, but my most important and likable and my value is more of MSP. And what are the difference between the two? For starters, it limits your product development to a specific market segment instead of appealing to a broader market. So this also limits the number of early adopters in that segment who need to buy your product and offering. Your product could be ahead of time, not different enough, or not enough wowing. So in simplest term, MSP is actually most sellable product, because most engineers are just doing what they ought to know, that their product is actually viable. But because startup is still a business, you need to make money. You need to actually think about what are the most sellable features, or this particular product or features that you want to build is sellable or not. You need to also think about that angle. Yeah. Next, please. Now, another activity. So what are your top 3 customer validated features? So let's get to it. Like for my Toda, what are the top 3 features that you think that your customers are willing to use and willing to pay? Yeah. For purchaser, what are those 3 validated features that your customers is really willing to pay and willing to use? So I'll give you another 5 minutes or 3 minutes this time, because these are just features. Thank you. All right. I need another volunteer. Who's volunteering? Hello?
Ako, sir, may I volunteer? Ledger Books, Erwin.
Ay,
Go
salamat.
ahead.
May matapang. Go ahead.
Yes. I could really say that there are 2 not yet 3, but 2 of those features that my users validated, and they love to use it. The button click and the financial statements comes out. And another one is there is an extended financial statement analysis besides the financial statement, where they can see the different ratios and also the horizontal and the vertical analysis. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. So next slide, please. So why am I think you already done this, the first feature. Next, please. And the second feature and the third feature, I think you already wrote about this. So why am I asking about these features? Because you need to ask this question. Will you be able to tell if your users is willing to use it? Purchaser, just for your one particular feature. Are you really sure that your users are willing to use it?
Yeah. Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had our talks with our potential users, and for our top 3 features, I'll just reiterate like your earlier question. But one is purchase reporting. Like it's much easier to report purchases inside the organization, and project data. Like since we're trying to become a digital arm for a business, we had to interview 2 types of users. One is the decision maker, and 2 is the purchaser, the one who does the purchasing inside of the company. And we had to talk about what do they find difficult to do, and we had to adjust our features accordingly. So so the changes sa validation phase namin is we had to prioritize na dapat malaman ng decision maker yung finances about the project, and then dapat madali yung data reporting for the purchaser as well, kasi they have trouble reporting the data to the decision maker and processing it. Nahihirapan sila doon. So that's what we're doing for them. And we have to go again our next validation phase this October to test out the feature that we've developed. So far, we're pretty confident that our users would be willing to use it. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
Next slide, please. Now, so when you start to dive into Agile, the first thing that you actually notice in any kind of high valued features is usually it's user centric. And the way purchaser mentioned to it is they're very focused on the user and how they could actually use that particular feature. So now it shifts your focus on more than just coding and more than just designing, because you're now thinking about delivering a real value to your end users, to your stakeholders and business in general. So now you're not talking about does this button should be blue, white, or does it should be big or should be in the first feature and everything. You need to think about what kind of experience and real value that really helps your customers. Next, please. So in order to do that, as what I mentioned a while ago, there are 3 types of roles in your startup. It should have 3 at least. The UX, which is the responsibility of designer. You have the tech, the engineer, and then you have the business. So anybody or everybody should be in between those 3. You need to have a balance, a mix of user design experience, a good working technology or product, and a sellable product. Next, please. Now, here comes user stories. I think Mom was giving you some YouTube video about epics, stories, and story points. So what are really user stories? This is actually helpful for your product development, and not just product development, in deciding on what are the features or mini features that you need to build first, and what are the most important uh, interactions or acceptable criteria for that particular feature. So usually user story is a small, and even the smallest, as small as it should be completed in 3 days, including not just design, not just coding, but quality assurance. That means testing. It's the smallest piece of work that represents some value to an end user and can be delivered during a sprint. And in product development, especially in startup product development, sprint usually is in 2 weeks. And an epic is actually one whole feature. A user story is just part of that feature. Like for instance, button to click. It could be just a 5 story point that could be done in 3 days or 5 days. And then you have another form which have first name, last name, email address, and that's another user story. It should be as small as possible. Why? Because when you put miniatures feature, you think about the focus on delivering real value. Next, please. So this is the user story format. It's actually very project management friendly, very CEO friendly, very business analyst friendly. So that means anybody and everyone on your organization can understand. So this is the format. As a blank, which is type of user, it could be as a customer. I want to click. That's an action. So that it could be added to a basket. So looks like nothing difficult, huh? But there's another example, real example, a taxi app, which is very close to my PUDA. So as a driver, I want to block badly behaved passengers. So take note. We have a type of user, which is the driver. The action there is to block badly behaved passengers. And the benefit is to never show bad drivers again to your app or application or your mobile or web application, and so on and so forth. And we have another example, which is as a passenger, I want to link the credit card to my profile so that I can pay for a ride faster, easier, and without cash. In this way, anybody in your organization can firmly understand, in layman's term, not just for code developers and not just for testers, but obviously for your stakeholders, CEOs, and sales and user designers. Yeah. Next, please. So now I want you to write your own user stories. There's another link there. Can I have your hand again, mom, to send it to the mentees? I want you to write your own user stories. I'll give you 5 minutes this time. Thank you. So usually user stories have acceptance criteria, but we will discuss that later. All right, and I need another volunteer, Linya Q. Linya Q, are you ready?
Hello, sir. I haven't used the template, but yeah, I just had like I just made it in my notes.
Okay,
So
no
yeah,
worries.
I hope it's the same. So as a user, I want to virtually book a queue in my chosen establishment to get my services in a timely and efficient manner. And as a business, I want to have a steady flow of customers coming into my store. Another one is as a user, I wanted to get specialized. Yeah, I just made it right now. So get specialized services that is specific to the facility or the establishment. For example, for government offices or if it's a clinic. So I wanted to have that customization in that aspect. And as a business, the same way, I wanted to have the system that will incorporate those features that I wanted for that is specific or tailor fit to my business.
Perfect. So you need to take note that user stories again is part of one particular feature or epic. That means, like for instance, you want your user to book or set an appointment, then that's just one feature. Uh, in user stories, it should be as small as possible. So that means you have, as a user, I want to click the this button and blah blah blah, and then another user story, I want to fill as a user, I want to fill up this form and blah blah blah. And so it's all actually part of one particular feature, but you have several user stories to achieve that particular story, to achieve that particular feature or epic. Yeah, because you only have 2 weeks or one sprint is equals 2 weeks, so in order for that feature to be achieved. Yeah, so that's actually the discipline in startup product development. Next, please. So, how to determine if you have a good story? Number one, it should be independent of all others. That means it should be able to stand on its own as a story. It could be programmed and tested on its own, and it's no negotiable. So that means that this particular feature could be changed from black to white later on, uh, from this text to this text. So it should be negotiable. Third, it should be valuable vertically. That means um, this particular feature can already be used by your customer. This particular story, once it's done, should already be usable to the end customer. And fourth, it should be estimatable. And usually we have Fibonacci in putting story points. So we have one as one story. That means it's easy as 1 day or 30 minutes or 1 hour of code development or testing or even configuration. Two is just two story point. It could be 2 days interpreted as 2 days. It could also be interpreted as uh, two, 2 hours. It depends on you. Three, it could be the complexity of that feature is 3 days, and then we have five. Usually, uh, in our discipline, especially when we do sprint planning, we usually only have up to five. Because if you have a story which is eight, that means it will take your developer to finish that particular use story for 8 days. Then it should be subdivided into another 3 story point and another 3 story point. It should be as small as possible. And again, I already talked about small and then testable. It should be tested. Next, please. So what is Agile project planning? And this is the bonus. Ma'am Joy, can you copy and paste it to the mentees so they would see what's inside really a project planning? Especially when you're starting, you need to plan because you only have few resources. You also have few work time and you need to execute as fast as you can. Ma'am Joy, can you copy and send it to the mentees?
Done already.
Yeah, thank you. So I want you to look into that and fill in as fast as you can. I'll give you 3 minutes to do that. It doesn't have to be complete. I just want you to understand on how to put all your projects, your features into one whole sprint plan. Thank you. 3 minutes. The next presenter would be Ledger Books. Ledger Books, if you're ready, you just need to present once you're ready. Ledger Books, are you ready to present? It doesn't have to be perfect and complete.
Okay, sir, I will just be presenting. Anyway, I am shocked of the several descriptions based on the Excel, but I'll just show how far I have done. Allow me to share. Oh, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I need permission to share.
Can you try again, Sir Erwin?
Yes, okay. There. So far, this is how far I have. It's like discovering the things that I have to do first on the project overview. So I have not yet figured out about this wireframing, but I think I have already done the coding. So I'll just write there 10%. And for the visual designs, I was not able to really put the information. I think I have done about 15%, and most of the effort that I here is on the back end, about 70%. There are several things here I have to consider given this particular planning project tool. And I have not yet touched the sprint for the daily planning. I think this will be part of my routine daily practice. So far, that's how far I have done, Sir Vince.
Yeah, no problem. What most important is you take action because at the end of the day, you're not just a participant. You're already a founder, and you need to do what needs uh, you need to do. This is just a template. You might want to use it or not, but there are also alternative. One of those is Trello.com, and we also have Jira. Most Australian startups here are using Jira because it's also Australian company, and most Australian and even in the Philippines they're using Jira because it's user friendly and it has a discipline for you to really add your epics, your stories, and story points and whatnot. It's really built for agile project development and agile project planning. Next, please. We're almost done, guys. So I want you to I want to exit this presentation with this quote. The mind is just like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets and the more it can expand. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to always act on what needs to be done. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you so much, Vince. Thank you also to our mentees for participating. And I look forward to the questions during the fireside chat. Speaking of the fireside chat, we don't have time for the Q&A anymore. So we'll cut the live so that we can go ahead and start with the fireside chat with the mentees. Thank you, everyone who are watching us at home. If you really enjoyed this session with Mark and Vince, please tune in to the other videos that we've done in the past. They've also shared a lot of valuable content regarding branding, communicating with your target market, and developing your product. It's just on our video section of our Facebook page at startupisland.ph. Again, thank you so much in behalf of my colleagues, in behalf of the DTI team, and in behalf of everyone who has supported us. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you again this Wednesday because 19th is a holiday. So we'll be having our next session about sales, marketing, and growth hacking next Wednesday. So I look forward to seeing you and engaging with you then. Bye and have a wonderful day.